Okay, so this is Terra Illumination. It's Saturday night, 21st of October, 2023. I just tried to do a live stream direct from my Zoom Pro system. I screwed up because I don't know what I'm doing. It was just a random attempt. And I realized, man, I just can't do that yet. I'm not ready. So I'll have to figure it out and do some practice recordings. In the meantime, I'm going to record this and then post it. Okay, that's what you're going to see shortly. So yesterday I put out a video highlighting a very, very strong, harsh astrological challenge. It's called a square between the Libra energy, Sun, Mercury, and the South Node, hard squaring with Pluto in Capricorn. All of them around like the 27, 25, 43 degree mark. Okay, so it's a really harsh square, and it's emphasizing relationships. I made the video about relationships earlier, and what we're seeing is the challenges in relationships. And so I thought, well, since we're dealing with Pluto here as the core of what is exposing the conflict in relationships, I thought maybe we should examine that at the very, very depths, which means going totally macro, big scale, mundane astrology worldwide, and get a little bit more definition. And why do I feel more definition? Is because I frequently talk about those people up there, the ELITES, okay, the people who own the world, people who run the world, and the unelected so-called bureaucrats, administrators. They're not really politicians. They are self-appointed entities, and they have reached a point of expansion where they believe in their own mythology about how important they are, about how amazing they are, and how it's time for them to essentially take over the world, to the point where things like, I would call it traditional tribalism, doesn't exist anymore. Things like countries, religions, nationalities, borders, agglomerations of culture. You know, we had there, you could break it up into different kind of groups, or like even religious groups, so for example, like Christianity, Hinduism, Muslims, Jews, Judeo-Christian, maybe atheists, maybe Buddhists. What else? I'm sure I've missed something. But anyway, human beings, from what I can tell, people in general, like to coalesce around belief systems. The older they get as you grow up and mature in life, you start to realize that, well, a lot of people start to realize that, wait a minute, there's the myself as I was born, like circumstances, whether I was born in the United States Rockies, or if I was born in Mongolia, or if Argentina or something, there's an automatic like culture and packaging that goes with it. And unless you are a traveler from very, very young, you would be, let's say, imprinted or conditioned by your circumstances, your surroundings, your culture, your parental figures, in such a way that that becomes you. And then you get to certain levels in life where you realize, wait a second. There's a whole other layer to my identity, myself, my beliefs, my values, that is like deeper down than my conditioning. you start to realize, well, wait a minute, a lot of my behaviors, attitudes, beliefs and assumptions about life in the world and everything, including relationships, are functioning on autopilot, just like default settings, like programmed, like being programmed to operate in a certain way, kind of like a computer program or something. And then you get to a point where you realize, some people realize, well, wait a minute, this is not working for me. There's another part of myself, my identity, that I have, let's say, given over to other people or something else that is not me. Okay, consider the South Node in Libra. Let's say default relationships, everything out there that's not you. And you go into this situation where you realize, well, wait, what about me? And so with the North Node in Aries, sorry, I can't take that right now. With the North Node in Aries, the evolutionary pressure is for each one of us as individuals to reclaim our sovereign selves, our sovereign identity from the very, very core. And to understand that so many of our relationships, which by definition is something, you connecting with someone or something out there that is not you, a lot of those things happen on autopilot. And a lot of it is dysfunctional. And I believe that there are, in my opinion, there are a lot of entities out there, especially these large-scale global entities, that understand what I'm talking about in terms of conditioning and how they present themselves to the world in such a way that they have this high degree of credibility and authority and integrity and purpose and meaning and value and trustworthiness. And then when you start digging deeper, you start to think like, wait a minute, from some perspectives, these entities or they are just the opposite of how they present themselves. And why is that so? It's because they have their interests above yours. What about you? Is it really selfish and mean and egomaniacal and narcissistic to want to be you, first and foremost, your most authentic, natural, purest self, rather than the person who you have been conditioned to be, programmed to be by external entities? And so I thought, well, there's the religious stuff, you know, the different types of religions. A lot of people are religious, a lot of people are not religious. The thing about religion, from what I can tell, is that it's an organized practice here on Earth that people subscribe to as a way of life, as a belief system, so that they have something that they can touch, something that they can hold on to as a code, as a rule book. Like I was raised in such a way that you had these things called the 10 Commandments, and it's a list of don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And some of it is do this, do that. And I was always terrified of religion. I had tremendous religious pressure imposed upon me. And I had very diabolical, demonic, evil things imposed upon me in the guise of God and goodness and religion. So I'm a little bit apprehensive. On the other hand, I do feel very connected with spirit. So I'm ambivalent like a lot of people. Anyway, I thought maybe I should just identify they. And look at the Libra South Node, the default energy of the South Node. In other words, it's like the energy of been there, done that. Everything is like status quo, nothing, you can't go any further in this direction. Every time you pour your energy into South Node behavior, in other words, continuing to trust and export you and your energy to the south node towards the other, whether it's an individual or a global institution, you're ultimately disempowering yourself and depleting your sovereignty. So I thought, let's look at it on the big scale. So I go on about it enough. So I thought I just pulled up a handful of the really obvious ones. And I'm going to see if I can do this here and just share it. How about that? Actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I've got a list here. It probably isn't going to show, but anyway, on my list, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 entities that I think of as they, them. You know, when you talk, if you're in for your neighborhood, or you're driving around in America, or you're living your life somewhere, and there's a load of orange cones and the roads are being built, and someone in the car says like, oh, I wonder what they're doing now. Who is they? Oh, like you're having a heated conversation with someone, perhaps about an awkward subject, and it involves maybe politics or religion or sex or money, you know, all the taboo subjects. If you talk about politics, religion, sex, or money, you're guaranteed to get into trouble somewhere along the line in the conversation. So who are they? Who are these entities, these figures? On the global scale, on the macro scale, for the whole of planet Earth, I have listed here, I have the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the European Union, the World Economic Forum. I have the Chinese Communist Party. I have the Council on Foreign Relations. I have the Bank of International Settlements. I have the World Bank. I have the International Monetary Fund. I have the US federal government. And I have the US Federal Reserve banking system. Behind all that are other layers, especially when you get deep into the money. And if you noticed, in about, let's see, what is it? We got the eclipse coming up in about a week. And then I think 2 weeks later, we've got that massive Scorpio Taurus new moon opposition. Oh, wait a minute, is it a full moon? Sorry, anyway. No, it's the Scorpio new moon opposition to Uranus in Taurus and a little bit of Jupiter in Taurus. And I pinpointed that this is a timestamp for global financial cataclysmic type of event. I don't know the scale, but I'm watching out for it. So I'm looking out for the 2 weeks leading up to it and the 2 weeks after, because the kind of scale that we're talking about here would take time to percolate and simmer and grow. The obvious example would be, what about all these wars that are expanding? What about all the warmongering that's going on and the astronomical amounts of money involved? Remember, with war, a lot of it, okay, it's ideology this, ideology, I hate you, you hate me, I'm going to kill you, no, I'm going to kill you, and everything. But in terms of the macro scale, it's all about the money, honey. War is big, big business. And when you follow the money, and when you follow the money, you realize that there is a very tiny number of people who want war. Okay, we are in a relationship with those people, whether we like it or know it, because we allow them to exist or allow them to operate in our world. I didn't elect them. I don't want them there, but they are there. They are imposing themselves on the rest of us because they can. So I thought it'd be an idea to look at that. So see if I can do this with the screen share. I'm just going to, it's just an illustration. Okay. I just want people to understand who I think of as they. Okay. It's time to put a name to it. So we're going to share. Here we go. Let's try this, see if it works. So you should be able to see, I might be in a little box up to the side here. Let's see if that's about it. Okay. So here we are, number one. I've got the United Nations. It looks very impressive, doesn't it? Why is this blob not going away? Oh, there it is. There's the United Nations. Peace, dignity, and equality on a healthy planet. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? About us. Let's have a look here. Oh, here we go. About us. One place where the world's nations can gather together, discuss common problems, and find shared solutions. It is so noble and so pure, and they want so much for everybody. But I see it as them. I see it as they. They are not me. I'm not them. And from what I can tell, they have an agenda that is really not what I would choose for myself. It's more about something that's being imposed. Nobel Peace Prizes, the main bodies, the Secretary General, our work, human rights, humanitarian aid, sustainable development and climate action, international law, global issues, okay, peace and security, human rights. Okay, let's move on here. I've got something else. Here's the World Health Organization, our work, our activities, the global program of work, the WHO Academy, health topics. Where's the one? There's something here about experts. Okay, now obviously there's going to be a lot of very smart, intelligent people involved here. Here's regions about the WHO, committees, advisory groups, the World Health Organization, saving everybody. We champion health and a better future for all. What we do and who we are. Remember, these people were very, very closely involved in an event that started in early 2020, and it involved a famous bug numbered 19. It all kind of links up with what I think of as the medical industrial complex. Now I've got to, there's this button here. I don't trust these people, okay? Next. You've heard of these folks, right? The World Economic Forum. And let's have a look here. Let me just scroll down, see if I can. The Global Future Councils. Experts, look, experts talking about AI and the climate and the jobs and more, all meeting up in Dubai. Here's what to know, okay? Closing the climate action gap. 3 ways the climate crisis is impacting jobs and workers. How can we build trustworthy media ecosystems in the age of AI and declining trust? I don't know about you, but I don't really trust these people. They are very proud of the fact that they've even stated it. This is where Klaus Schwab lives, okay? Now over here, they have a little section who like reports, intelligence, videos, centers, okay? The Center for Advanced Manufacturing and Supply Chains, in it, okay? Center for Cybersecurity, the Center for Energy and Materials, Center for Financial and Monetary Systems, Financial and Monetary Tyranny, Enslavement, okay? The Center for Healthcare and Healthcare as a form of tyranny. The Center of Nature and Climate as a way to corral big money for certain people. The Center for Urban Transformations, okay, 15-minute cities, basically another form of prison, okay? Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, that is another way, a polite way of saying the destruction of America, right-wing conservatives who are the last bastion of freedom of speech and self-defense that remains in the world. The United States patriots are the #1 enemy of the three entities that I've discussed, presented so far. For a center for the new economy and the new society. So we're talking about globalized CBDCs. In other words, where all the money goes to one banking system, where they own and control everything, where you no longer have control over your life and your money. If you do something that they don't like, let's say you go out and buy a self-defense weapon, and they don't want you to have that, all of a sudden your bank account gets closed down, or you can't spend money on gasoline or travel, or you have food restrictions. It's all here. Center for the New Economy and Society. This is bone-chilling, terrifying stuff. Let's have a look at another entity. Now, I couldn't find the exact thing I wanted, but this is pretty close. It's the News of the Communist Party of China. There is a CPC site for China, but I can't find an actual hub, but they tell you a lot about themselves, because they basically, this is a massive, propaganda tool. And you can study it as much as you want. Look, there he is. There's Mr. Ping right over there. Those are his top 6 underlings. And they tell you all about the amazing things that the CCP is doing for the world, how they're going to take over the world and present the Belt and Road Initiative and get everybody connected, and that all roads lead back to Beijing and Xi Jinping, because Mr. Ping here, along with Mr. Oh, I can't see if let me see if I can find it. How do I get rid of this? Okay, Mr. Ping is working basically hand in hand with Mr. I'm going to close that up. Mr. Schwab, Klaus, this is where Klaus Schwab hangs out. I mean, this is a beautiful, improving the state of the world. Okay, so this is essentially globalized communism using the Chinese CCP business model. So they're like operating as a team, like a tag team, to take over the world and turn it into one singular communist entity. To me, that's very, very scary. Here's another one of these self-appointed enormous bureaucracies and administrative centers that, as far as they're concerned, they should be running the world. The principles, countries, and history, our principles and values, key facts and figures, country profiles, our languages, institutions, bodies, leadership, priorities and actions, actions by topic. Ooh, EU support for Ukraine. Okay. Live, work, and study. News and events. Of course, it's globalism. Okay. It's all about the globalism. Now we go down a little bit deeper. This one is, okay, I'm just going through my notes up here. There's a little bar that comes at the top when I'm trying to do the screen share. It's very tight on the screen. It's hard to control. That's financial. Okay, let me go here. This is one of them. When I talk about they include everything that I just talked about and these folks here. This looks very benign, doesn't it? The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, okay? These guys and their shareholders, which are basically a bunch of banks and banksters and so on, it's like a big private club, and you could also talk about BlackRock and Vanguard and all those massive funds that have what BlackRock was about, what is it, about $11 trillion assets under management. Vanguard is about 7 trillion. Anyway, I think it was just today I read how the Federal Reserve just allowed, just basically, this is the printer. Okay, this is where they print the money. Well, they actually print it from the Treasury, but these folks here, let's say about the Fed, okay? These folks are self-appointed banksters, okay? And they have all these really, really noble intentions, okay? Here, just look at the top line here. The Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, provides the nation with a safe, flexible, and stable monetary and financial system. It sounds awesome until you discover that it's actually a form of creating a debt farm. If you think of these as farmers, and they have shareholders and owners of the farm, they farm the American population as a debt farm. Every individual in America is being farmed. I call them debt cows. You're being farmed like a cow, like in factory farming for cows, pigs, chickens, salmon, shrimp, and all of that. You're being farmed. And the whole idea of farming you is to create debt. This whole thing, this whole world banking system of fiat money exists through the creation of debt, perpetual expanding, increasing debt forever and ever and ever, printing money and so on, inflation. You can do a lot of your own research on this. And the problem is that if you just imagine you're a debt cow and you have been groomed and conditioned to be a very good debt cow. You learn very early on in life that the best thing you can do is train and learn and do something that will allow you to earn an income. And then when you earn your income, you can take on debt. You can take on debt so that you can have a credit card and have more debt. You can get a vehicle or a car and have a car loan, which is a massive debt. And then when you grow up and you want a house and babies and family, you can have a mortgage, which is basically engaged in debt until you die. And then you can have a college, because you got to get trained how to do all this stuff. Okay, it's just a massive pyramid of debt. And what happens with the debt is that they print basically digital currency that we think of as money. They print it out of thin air. It never existed until they make it happen. And then they issue that to you. What you do from there is that you adopt the debt and then you pay it back using the same bits of currency, but your currency was obtained through your sweat, your labor, your skills, your talents, your efforts, your energy, your lifeblood, your time. All of that gets condensed into your debt repayment. And that debt repayment is wealth, and that becomes an asset that belongs to these folks here. You're being farmed, okay? And they gladly take all that stuff, put it in a big vault, and basically give themselves permission to loan it out again on a perpetually expanding thing. If we go to, maybe I can find it. Let me see if I can find it right now, the US debt clock. Give me a second here, please. Hold on. Hold on. Yes. CK.org. It was non-operational last time I tried to go there. CK.org. Let's see if it goes. Let's see if it works. Last time I tried to go there, it was not operating. There it is. So like today, here we are. Here's the big swirly number that everybody looks at. 33.5 trillion and growing. Look at the speed of this growth. Hundreds of millions of dollars every day. Okay. Just sort of trip out and look at the screen for a minute. Focus into the top left-hand corner over there, the US national debt. There's all sorts of ways to reinterpret all this stuff. But anyway, you're being farmed. Okay, let's keep going. There is, oh, come on, wait, I have to wait for this little window thing to disappear at the top. Why is it not? Come on, please. I know I'm screen sharing. Okay, let's go over. Give me a pause. It seems to take its time before it clears. Okay, let's go over here. Here we go. Here's the International Money Fund, which is funded by the United States Federal Reserve. And this is basically a loan shark operation, a massive global loan shark operation, which is very similar to the Chinese Belt and Road operation. The whole idea is they come knocking on your door and they say, listen, I can see you guys are in trouble. Dear Sri Lanka, dear Nigeria, dear Congo, dear Argentina, dear Mexico, dear Panama, hundreds of, probably 100 countries all over the world. Just the same thing. In other words, the IMF is actually a competitor with the Chinese BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, because what these folks do is they do what's called, they create debt traps, the same way that the United States Federal Reserve creates and operates a debt farm, okay? So they'll come knocking and say, listen, we can really help you out here. We know you're struggling. We know you've tried to apply because you need billions and billions of dollars to help you because your economy is collapsing. Your country is an absolute mess, whether it's because of nature or war or corruption. I don't know, it's a terrible problem, but we know that you need billions of dollars. So if you sign off on this document that you will behave accordingly to our conditions, then we will inject billions of dollars into your country. And then you can do that really good thing that you want to do to save your country. And then you can start paying us back with interest, a lot of interest. Is that okay? And then the desperate country goes, yeah, I'll sign that. Sure. Okay. So it's the same thing as the Chinese Communist Party. They do the same thing. So isn't that nice? Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Now, this is the Bank of International Settlements. These are another group of people who are at the very, very top of the pyramid of power, control, and money. The only thing they care about is power, control, and money. But they want to look nice the way they're doing it. So they have these beautiful operations. And what happens is, this is like a central bank for central banks. So all the central banks across the world, they're constantly trading and everything because of international trade, foreign exchange trading and currency trading and all that kind of stuff. And it has to go somewhere. It has to go from somewhere to somewhere. And this is the clearinghouse. It's like a clearinghouse. You know, somebody sends money from here to there, a couple of billion. And they deal in trillions of dollars every single day. Okay, so it's kind of a big deal, but you don't hear about it because it's just a clearinghouse. But guess what? They make money too. About us. Let's go to the, anyway, have a look at this fellow. There he is, Mr. Carstairs. And promoting global monetary and financial stability through international cooperation. Basically, what they do is they act as the clearinghouse for all the other central banks, so that because all the other central banks are doing the same thing in terms of creating debt farms in their own countries. So it all feeds into this monster machine, and it's all about sucking life force and energy and time out of you to stuff it into their pockets, and so that they can have absolute power and control and money over you. Now, we have to have certain institutions and functions that allow global finance and global activities to work. But there are ways to do it that might work better than what we've got now, because all these institutions, they say they're there to help you and serve you, but really they're there to serve themselves. You're being farmed, okay? Now, I'm going to go over here. I just did the international. I want to look at this one here. Have you ever heard of these guys? The Council on Foreign Relations. It sounds very, very humble, very benign and very serious and very important. And it's basically a group of people. I haven't done too many deep dives into it, but basically it's a group of people at the very, very highest levels of society who meet and gather to figure out how are we going to control and run the world. In other words, they start picking people, like the World Economic Forum. They have infected and infiltrated vast amounts of the world, okay, especially the obvious ones like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, and even America. The World Economic Forum has a big office in Manhattan and another one in Chicago. And their job is to spread their tyranny everywhere they possibly can. And they groom and select and nurture what they call the young leaders of the world, like Justin Trudeau and Jacinda Ardern, who are basically hardcore, very, very, very far left-wing socialists who do the bidding of the World Economic Forum and the other entities that I've been talking about. There's so much more to this, but this is a really, really important one because they're very, very discreet. They're very, very mellow. They don't try and bombard the world with, media stuff. They sit there in the background and they watch the world from the very, very, very tippity top perch of their towers. And they watch people who would be suitable to bring in to their control. So in other words, like in America, people aren't necessarily elected. It's more like they're selected, like certain people, like Justin Trudeau was selected. Jacinda Ardern was selected. And the power of the CFR goes deep into every economy and every leading institution of the world. Again, we're being played. Now, there's another thing I want to show you. We did the debt clock over here. I just want to go back into it. So all these things that I mentioned, they are classic examples of what I think of as they. These are some of the big ones. There are other layers as you go down from those layers. These are like the owners. Imagine like these are the owners of the world. They have all the wealth, all the stock, all the abundance, and it's, BlackRock and Vanguard. And so they have to run the world. So how do they do that? They do that through the global banking system, and who works in collusion with their local politicians. In the United States, the federal government with the Federal Reserve Bank, they work in collusion. And then from there, you can go another layer down. You can have the mainstream media. Like in America, it's ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Microsoft, all the big media apps, the Twitters, the TikToks, all of that stuff. And then those are like the propagators. And you can keep going down layers. You can look at regional banks. Like in America, that would be Chase Bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, PNC, Citibank, and those places. They are down in the trenches with the people, the actual debt cows, right down there in the debt cows, and so on. It goes down to layers where it reaches down to you, the individual, and the IRS. So that's one of the ways that they collect. That's one of the ways they milk you. If you think of yourself as a debt cow, one of the ways they milk you is through taxes, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. So you do all your work and you create all this energy that's worth a lot when you need as much of it as you can to live your life, but they suck out as much as they can in the form of milk. I think of it as milk. And then that gets funneled to the very, very top, back to them, they. The other way that they extract wealth out of you is through inflation, which is the perpetual expansion of the money supply. And they've taken it so far that in the United States, we now have $33 trillion of over expansion that can never be paid through the IRS and taxes and through the collection of life force from we the people. So it's going to collapse. It's all, and we're witnessing it live, real time now. And it often leads to war. In other words, the rise and fall of the empire. It's a very common story if you look back thousands of years, and it looks like America might be going through one of those things as well. We've talked about the Pluto cycle, 250 years. Right now, right on cue, right on clockwork, the United States is essentially on its deathbed, convulsing. And we're hoping, I'm certainly one of the people who's hoping to reconstitute the Constitution, go from there. I want to show you a little bit deeper down to show you how certain things happen behind the scenes that don't get reported. Over here, see if I can find it. Give me a second. Here we go. So here is an alternative media source. I like these folks because they're really in your face and they dig up stuff that you're not going to see on mainstream, okay? They are English speaking. They're based in Portugal. They gather information. They have amazing connections across the world. And I relate to them because I feel aligned with them in that everything that I just talked about in terms of what I've just described, they resonate very closely with how I resonate. So I see them as people that I can trust. You know, of course, if I was part of them, if I was part of they, I would consider these people here, Natalie and Clayton, I would consider them the enemy. I would consider them liars, cheaters, stealers, making up propaganda and BS and reinterpreting information and creating fear and paranoia in people like myself. Anyway, it's two sides of the same story. Anyway, there's a video, one thing that goes on in here, and it's very, very disturbing. It's this thing here. Now, let me see if I can pop this up here for you. I'm probably going to have to open it in a new tab. Let me see if I can do this. It should, bear with me. It looks like it's a little bit, oh, here it is. It's actually working. So I'm not going to play it. I'm going to try and click forward. Now, Clayton he connects with a lot of independent reporters across the world. A lot of them are like ex-military and they go deep into very dangerous situations. And there's this guy here who, what's his name? Michael Yon over here. Sorry, Michael Yon. That's Michael Yon. If you can see it down in the left-hand corner, that's Michael Yon. He's down there in Panama right now. And what he's showing is these camps. Okay, do you see over here? So there's Clayton. Do you see all this stuff here? These are brand new camps down on the Panama, Colombia, Venezuela border, where hundreds of thousands of people are gathering in order to make their journey up through Central America and Mexico, right up to the Texas border. Okay, so these camps are basically like huge bus stations, and there's lots of them. And guess who pays for them? Guess who makes these camps? Guess who builds them? Guess who manages them? It's the United States federal government. Think about that. The United States federal government, I should bring that up as another entity, but I don't know if they have an actual website. There's the White House website. I guess I could put that up. There's the US Treasury website. I guess I could put that up. That would, you know, summarize the totality of basically the American government, the very top of the ownership. But basically, yeah, I didn't prepare for that. I'm sorry. But anyway, the US federal government pays for this. Okay. And let me see if I can find some other pictures. I'm going to scroll through. You've probably seen a lot of pictures on the migrant, close-up stuff. It's very disturbing, some of it.
Plumbing, the version of the plumbing, which is what they already use anyway. And then they'll basically they're way stops. So the aliens come through the jungle, they'll go
it's
through a place called Nicocley.
So this guy is hardcore. This guy, Michael Young, he's hardcore. He's right down in there. He's risking his life every day. People don't want him there, but he captures footage and he meets people and talks to people. He's been to the Texas border. He's been into Mexico. He goes all over the world. He's been to Ukraine, all of it, to get real information. Okay. And this is just one tiny example of what they are doing, because what do they want? Okay, think about it. What do they want? They want to destroy nation states. They want to rip apart borders. Oh, you know what? I'm missing. There's so many foundations. I could put, I should have prepared this much better. Maybe I'll have to do another video. But there's the Michelle and Barack Obama Foundation. There's the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation. There's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There's the George Soros Open Society Foundation. All of those entities are part of at the very, very top. And they want to create what amounts to globalized communism. And it's very difficult to do that without destroying borders, destroying hope, destroying economic sovereignty, personal sovereignty. So they're working very, very hard to do that. You could call them globalists. Everything that I just mentioned, put it all in one basket and call them globalists. So there are many different tactics and angles that they're using to destabilize and destroy, especially the most important stronghold of sovereignty, freedom of speech, freedom to defend yourself and protect yourself, freedom to be who you are. And that consists of about 80 million United States American patriots. That's it. Out of a world of 8 billion people. There's nowhere else in the world that has what we have in the United States, an actual formal constitution that is essentially our 10 Commandments, just like our Bible. Anyway, let me move on. And all of this, okay, goes to, here's another fellow that I like, because he's very, very conservative. He's ultra conservative. Okay, you might not like him, but I like him because he likes the idea of preserving your sovereign self, your right to be who you are, feel what you want to feel, say what you want to say, believe what you want to believe, and accept the consequences accordingly. If you want to be a really nasty person, you have to deal with the consequences. If you want to be a good person, you can accept the consequences. But that's freedom. We have a lot of freedom in the United States, but it's being stolen, okay? One of the ways they can steal it is through central bank digital currencies and inflation and taxes. And another way is through the degradation of our political and sovereign systems, like our borders and our governance. So right now in Washington, D.C., this is a few days ago now. I'm going to open this up in a new tab, just like I did the other one. Come on, Steve, let's do this. We don't have all day. Here it is. So you might recognize these people. I'm not going to play the video. On the left, there's Kevin McCarthy. He's a centrist. He plays both sides. And he's very presentable and very, very good at who he is and what he does. And there is a team, there's what they call the Gang of Eight in Washington right now. It's just 8 people. 5 plus 3, it's 8 people. We call it the Gang of Eight, which includes Matt Gaetz, who's kind of the rebel leader, who forced Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership. He has a very powerful position. He's the third in line to the presidency after Joe and Kamala, and that's it. And of course, everyone on the left wing or the Democrats are doing everything they can to destroy the Republicans. And so what the Republicans have found is that Washington here, this thing in the middle, is so corrupt that even deep inside the Republican Conservative Party, there are enemies, and that is the enemy within. And this fellow here is Jim Jordan, and he's considered, and I consider him to be a very good person, because he very much wants to reconstitute the Constitution, and he abides by the Constitution. And he's a good fellow. Do your own research. But anyway, he was far and away the most popular vote to be the new speaker, if you could go to the American public. But he's not popular inside the Republican Congress. And why is that so? It's because he is a threat to the Republican Party status quo. And why is that a problem? Well, the Republican Party status quo is just like the other side. It's very much about money, power, and control. And inside the Republican Party, there's 20 people, gang of 20, who are very much in the money and the culture of money and the ideology and principles of the money that keeps the government going. They call it continuity of government. And for the people who are in Washington to line their own pockets, all they want is continuity of government. They want to maintain what they call the uniparty. It doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. It's just a massive machine that operates like a massive cancerous tumor. And Jim and the Gang of Eight want to stop that. They want to rip it apart. They want to burn it all down. And guess what? I'm on that route, but this guy was shut down viciously because the Gang of 20 refused to, let's say, honor the popular vote. And so everything is stuck. Basically, the Republican Party is in absolute chaos. The Republican Party is part of Washington, so they are part of they at the very, very top. If I was going to list everything that I should have listed, I would list the White House, I would list the US Treasury, I would list those things that I just listed, Bill and Melinda Gates, the foundation, Barack and Michelle Obama Foundation, the George Soros Open Society Foundation. I would have put all those up there because they are all globalists. All of them want to maintain power, money, control at the very tippity top. And it's a tiny number of people like Jim Jordan here, Matt Gaetz, and your favorite DJT, who have pledged to take it all down, to burn it all down and start from scratch. Now, it took 250 years to get to the point of the end of the Pluto cycle, where we are right now, to the point of complete degradation. So it is going to die off, and it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be cataclysmic. It's going to be frightening for a lot of people, including Americans. And then there's no guarantee about what's going to come out of it. And it wouldn't be surprising if there's some kind of internal conflict, because we are seeing now that despite all the chaos and war outside of the physical America, the real enemy is here within, right here within. Let me see if I can find this one. Okay, I've got that one. I got that one over here. You know, I've been going a long time here. I think I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to stop the share. What I was trying to do was illustrate in a little bit more detail so that you understand more what I'm talking about in future videos when I do this, or I talk about them or they or the elites or the elites or the globalists. They exist. They are real entities, real people, and they operate above you and me. They're way, way up there. They don't answer to anybody or anything except themselves. They don't even care what party you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to any of that stuff. They are their own entities. And the only thing they care about is power, money, and control for whatever reason. I don't understand that. Real happiness comes from here. Okay? Having your own integrity from here, and nobody can take that from you. They can even kill you. Not a lot of people want to die in order to maintain and own their integrity, but a lot of people have. Back 250 years ago, 1776, there was a lot of war, revolution, and death. People died for what we have today, or what the remnants of what we have today in terms of freedom and our Constitution. And we're getting very near to that point again, because at that time, the enemy was without. The enemy was the British Empire. Today, the enemy is the American Empire, and that means the enemy is here within. They're right here. They're in office now in Washington. That's just one of them. That's one of them. That's one of they. Okay, I don't want to scare you. I just wanted to clarify things. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you get something out of this. Take care. Bye.